The Empathicary Podcast is a Mind Garden Media podcast in association with
Screw You, Todd
Productions. It's another Empathicary podcast. It's Sandy and Todd.
Hi.
Hi.
I am so excited. We're back again for episode 3 of the Empathicary podcast. I look so forward to recording these, Todd.
I do too, because it gives me a chance to kind of talk about stuff that I'm dealing with or kind of working through, learning about that kind of stuff. So it's kind of like a conversation between you and I about where we're kind of at.
Sure. And this one is really important because every empath deals with that on some level in their lives. And we're going to talk today about energy vampires.
And because it's right around Halloween, this one's called I've Come to Suck Your Energy. Season 1, Episode 3 of the Empathicary Podcast is on the way.
What, you beautiful souls. I'm so excited to have this platform where I can share my gifts, the things that I do, what we need to do as a collective energy to really step into soul's path. Reiki and healing and alignment. Oh my goodness, these are all so very important in what we do. I have a daily podcast that I do. You can find me on Spotify and Anchor for your daily vibes, your energies as a collective unit, right? You can also find me on my Facebook page where I really go more in depth with it, but you can find me at Mystic Karma by Victoria.
And it's another Empathicary podcast. It's season 1. We're up to episode number 3, and it is called I've Come to Suck Your Energy. Blah, blah.
Good job. Good job. I like that.
Trying.
Very good.
Trying.
Yeah, well, you did great. You did great. Yeah, this is going to be a really cool episode because this is something that you and I deal with almost on a daily basis at times. And it can really, truly drain my energy and make me feel really off when it happens to me.
Yeah. I think in general, energy vampires are drawn to empaths because they know that empaths are healers, givers, feelers of energy. You know, it's just an easy way to tap in. That's really what it is. It's an easy tap.
Yeah, and it can be anybody. It can be anybody at all. It doesn't have to be a stranger, although it can be. But more likely, it's going to be somebody that you are at least acquainted with, somebody that you have in your life. It could be a spouse, a significant other. It could be a friend or a coworker. These are people that sort of come to you on a regular basis and expect, whether consciously or unconsciously, for you to sort of be their venting machines.
Yeah.
And because empaths are people who other people are drawn to them, this happens quite a bit.
It really does. In fact, I went online and I got the definition of psychic vampire or energy vampire. They're kind of the same thing. They say it's a fictional and religious creature said to feed off the life force of other living creatures. The term can also be used to describe a person who gets increased energy around other people, but leaves those other people exhausted or drained of their own energy. And that's really what we're talking about today, is that person who is very, very needy, you know? And I think as empaths, we learn over time who those people are, but we don't know necessarily right off the bat, do we?
No, you don't. You don't, because a lot of empaths, myself included, we have this natural propensity to help, this willingness to be there and listen and care about others. And, you know, not only does that just leave you exhausted in and of itself, but it's sort of like these energy vampires come to the well and suck the well dry, basically. Right. And then that leaves you with really nothing. And it's very, very difficult. It's really difficult. And I think that recognizing the fact that you are dealing with an energy vampire is half the battle. The other half is what you do about it and how you manage it. But just recognizing these people is really super important because we don't always do it right away until it gets to the point where we're just so exhausted and so drained of our energy.
My sister made a very good point, and we were talking the other day about how we will take care of other people before we take care of ourselves to our own detriment. And I think a lot of empaths are that way. And as you said, one of the things that we need to do in order to learn is learn how to see who these people are right up front.
Right.
And number two, put up our walls a little bit and help as we can, but then realize that there's only so much we can do. There's only so much that we can push away, you know?
Right. Right. And there's many different ways that you can recognize an energy vampire. I've dealt with it so much now in my life that it's kind of easier for me to sort of pick up on it, but it still doesn't mean that you're not going to deal with it, at least to some extent, before you do pick up on it. It does take a little bit of time before you realize that this person keeps coming to your well and taking the water and not leaving anything in return.
Right.
So there are some ways that you can recognize an energy vampire. A lot of these people, and again, this isn't always intentional. This very rarely is it really intentional. These are just people who tend to gravitate towards you and your energy because they're taking your energy from you to make themselves feel better, if that makes sense.
Right.
So one thing that energy vampires, one of their traits is that they never accept responsibility for their own actions.
Oh, it's a classic. That's a classic sign. And I've learned that over time because that's why they're coming back time and time and time again for your energy and for your help and your support is because they keep doing the same damn things over and over and over. And they never take responsibility for it. It's always somebody else's problem.
Always somebody else's problem, always their fault. It's never something that they take responsibility for. And we, as human beings, if I do something wrong, then I'll take responsibility for it. That's just how I am. But some of these people don't. And that's a big clue as to what you're dealing with. Another one is that they're always in the middle of some sort of drama. Something is going on in their life, whether it's a breakup or bad test grade scores or, their car broke down or something's going on. There's always drama in their life, always.
And here's the thing. You feel bad for them because some of these people do have a streak of what, we would typically call bad luck. And they do have, the bad test scores one week, and the next week their car broke down, and the next week their pet passed away, and the next week they're having a fight with their spouse or significant other. Yeah, I mean, it almost is that way. But what I've learned is those people feed into it, and they're creating those things over and over in their life. I'm going to give you a quick example.
Yeah.
There's somebody in my life who I have been an empath for and have helped along the way. And they continue to have all this stuff happen and they keep coming back to the well. I finally was able to kind of close them off. I'm still here.
Yeah.
I still offer that occasional help, but I'm done with that. I can't do anymore. They're what we call askholes. They ask for help. They ask questions. They want advice, and then you give it, and then they turn around and not use it.
Yeah. And you know what, too? Like, I know somebody in my life like that, and it's a relative. And so they always have drama surrounding them. And I truly believe that they sort of live for that drama.
Yeah.
That drama defines who they are. And without that drama in their life, they couldn't be the person that they are. And I know that sounds sad, and it is, but that's just how they live their life. If they don't have drama in their life, then they're just not happy, as sad as that is. So I do have somebody in my life like that, and it's very hard to deal with, especially when it's somebody that you're close to.
And somebody that you do care about.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
You do care.
Exactly.
You don't want bad things for them. You wish that you could make everything okay for them, but you've tried to give them pathways to that. You've tried to be there in support of. You've tried to give advice, and they continue to refuse it. And they'll take it at the time because, again, that fuels them.
Right.
But when it comes to actually turning around their life and doing something else, they can't do it, or they won't do it. They won't
How
do
many
it.
times have I said to somebody, well, this is really what you should be doing right now. And they'll agree with me and say, I know, and I have to change that. And then 2 weeks later, they're in the same exact situation because they didn't change that part of their life. So that is so draining because you do care. And aside from taking on other people's feelings, like I do care. I do want to see them happy and, you know, having a great life. And but they're not taking any steps to change themselves.
Right.
And that's when you have to say, okay, I have to do something. I have to put on the brakes here for my own well-being.
Have you last night we had an interview with Gina Kalk on the Sandy and Todd cast. And I actually asked her about, you know, my vibrations, how do I raise my vibrations, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
That was speaking to me directly. And today, 2 or 3 people who watched that episode last night said to me, Todd, you have to change your way of thinking in order to make this come to fruition. And so I'm realizing that while I'm a grounded individual and I am a balloon popper, I will pop that balloon on a child anytime I can, right?
Right.
I realize that if I do want to go to the next level and I do want to understand more, that I have to take a little bit of a leap of faith here and kind of just go through the motions until it happens. Fake it till you make it kind of thing. So I'm learning that too.
Yeah, and I'm really proud of you, and I'm happy about that because I try to live my life that way. And, you know, we all get in those cycles where it's hard to sort of find the positive in everything. But believe me, it does make for a calmer, more peaceful life for yourself and less need to go to the well if that is something that you normally do. So I think that was a good point to bring up, too, that you have to first you have to recognize it. Yep. You have to recognize that you are doing these things, that you are this way. And then the second step, the harder step, I think, is changing it. But it can be done. It can be done.
I almost feel like for me, the path or the crossroad or the fork in the road for me is I'm at the fork, so I can either take my talent and go toward the light, or I can take it and go toward the dark.
Ooh.
You know?
Yeah.
And there's a part there, I'll be honest with you, 150%. There's a part of me that feels better and more myself in the dark than in the light. And so part of me, you know, like, listen, if I could make a deal with somebody and they'd let me shoot fire from my hands, the world would be a much different place right now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but you know what? Let's face it. Empaths have a tendency to want to recede, to pull themselves back away from the light because they want that we're introverted. We want to pull ourselves away because when you go towards the light, that just reminds me of the movie Poltergeist. When you go towards the light, that means that you have to have more feeling. You have to be more transparent. You have to care more. You have to deal with emotions and senses a lot more than if you just kind of pull yourself back into that darker side, you know, that quiet side.
There's a part of me that just wants to be like this, right? I feel very comfortable in that, you know.
And you also do that really well.
Yes.
Like if there was a job on the dark side for that, like they would recruit you.
And then funny on the other side, I'd also get the ho, 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 Merry Christmas, little boy. I can also get that job. So part of me is Santa Claus. The other part of me is the deepest, darkest, scariest thing under your bed right now.
I'll never forget the one day. This is totally off topic, but it was so funny. The one day you kept messaging me as Santa Claus like for an hour, and it was hilarious. I love
doing, and I don't know if I can do it right now, but there's Santa morphing into evil Santa, and it goes something like this. That's my Santa morphing into evil Santa.
It is a little disturbing, I have to say.
What did my face look like when I did that?
It was really great. You should go back and watch the video.
I'm not recording video today. We just have the cameras on. So
darn it.
Yeah.
That was great. So
Are there
totally off topic.
are there
but
some
that was great.
more ways of identifying an energy vampire?
Yeah, and real quick, we'll just go through them because I think it's important for everybody to understand it. How about the people that feel like they have to one-up you all the time?
Oh, God.
Like they can't take your happiness and just accept it.
Not only
So,
your
for
happiness, your sadness, your pain, your joy. You cannot have anything that is just yours.
Have you seen the memes on Facebook occasionally that'll say something like, it's time to normalize not saying, I can relate because this happened to me.
Yeah.
And it's true because we tend to want to try to relate to people, but it actually can work against you sometimes. And so, for example, what they'll do is, if you got a certification at work, they'll say, oh, I'm so proud of you. Only 3 more certifications to go to catch up with me.
Right.
So they've got to one-up you and let you know that they are farther along than you are. And those are the kinds of people that tend to take your energy to build themselves up. They always want to talk about themselves. They never want to hear about you. They're the victim in every situation. Every situation, they are the victim. And that goes along with not taking responsibility for their own actions. They'll take advantage of your heart and your kindness and your willingness to listen to them and tell you their stories over and over again all the time. They think you're available constantly. And the big one is they'll use guilt trips. They'll use guilt trips to get you to talk to them so that they can get everything off their chest and give you all of the information that they have. Or it could be this way. If you really care about me, you'll do this for me.
Right.
So if you love me,
people do that
you'll
all
love
the time.
me, you'll do that. And I hate that. That drives me crazy because just because I love you doesn't mean that I have to do everything that you ask me to do.
Right. Right.
So there are many others, but those are the big ones. And those kind of help you recognize the fact that you're dealing with someone who is an energy vampire.
So, I mean, over time, I've realized that one of the reasons why I have put up the walls, shut down, and not allowed people in my life is because of energy vampires. That was a very big portion of why I stopped. When I realized that I was an empath, it's a couple of years ago, handful of years ago, and my health was bad. I wasn't doing well. I was frantic all the time. And it was because of these people, everybody needing something, wanting it, needing healing, needing advice, whatever it was, they were all coming at me. And I felt obligated to take care of them, not because I labeled myself an empath, but just because deep down inside, I felt like I had to.
Yep.
So, and so instead of being able to learn to block here, block there, deal with this one, but watch out with that one, I just put the walls up and said, the hell with it. I'm going to take care of me. And that doesn't mean that I turn people away, but I no longer fed them.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'd give them a little bite of something, like, here you go. Think about this. But if they didn't do it and they came back again, not my issue at that point.
Exactly. And that's so important. You sort of have to, set your boundaries with these people. There's a lot of different ways that you can do it. I was always the fixer. I was the one who would fix every problem that somebody had. And regardless of whether they actually listened to me or not, I would let them keep coming back over and over and over again. And I'd say to them, well, why didn't you do this? And I know you're right. I told you I have one in my life right now. And it's hard because this is a person that I can't just cut out of my life. So I have to basically find other ways to manage that one because that is not somebody I can just say goodbye to. But, and I do a pretty good job of it now. But yeah, it's hard to sort of cut people out completely, but you have to remember that it's for your own good.
Yeah.
It's for your own sanity. It's for your own health. I was running around constantly at everybody's beck and call and not taking care of myself. And that can lead to a lot of problems. So there are some things that you can do to manage how much you let someone like that into your life. Once you recognize that you're dealing with that.
Yeah.
The big one is to try to establish your boundaries. Don't go to social events or dinners or out for coffee with them. For God's sake, don't do weekend trips or vacations with them. Anything that's long-term, more long-term than you can handle, whether that's 30 minutes for coffee or a week of vacation. Figure out what your boundaries are, set them for yourself, and stick to them. Limit your interactions with the people at work that do this to you. We've all had people at work who are always having problems and drama.
Yeah.
And we feel like we're the fixers for them. And so limit your time, your interactions with them at work. You don't have to go to lunch with them every day and listen to their problems. You can change your lunch hour. You don't have to go to break with them every day. You can come up with something else that you have to do during your break each day. But make sure that you set your boundaries. That's so, so important.
I think too, like for me, it wasn't necessarily like one-on-one, face-to-face stuff. A lot of it for me was social media.
Yes.
And you're teaching me how to not respond until you're ready to respond. And I've got to get better at that because, again, I want to help people. I've always been in the service industry in my entire life. Even in radio, you're kind of in the service industry where if somebody reaches out to you for something, you need to be there. You know, the customer is always right kind of thing.
Yep.
So I've always been one to kind of just go out and reach out whether or not I was ready or not. And you're teaching me, don't always do that.
Yeah.
Be ready for it.
Todd, that was huge with me too for years because being in radio as well, and even before radio, I'm not going to use radio as my total excuse, but I still, every day, I get message upon message upon message, and I'll get group chats and all kinds of things. And there are days when I'm okay with dealing with it. And then there are days when I just say, man, I cannot deal with this kind of energy today. This all over the place and 15 people messaging at the same time and all of this stuff, or somebody messaging me to help them with this problem or ask me a question about that. And if I can't deal with that right at that point in time, I let it sit there. I don't answer it. I let it sit there. I don't even open it. And when I feel like I have the bandwidth, when I can actually deal with someone's problem or question or concern or a group chat, that's when I open that group chat or that message. And then I deal with it then. And you don't have to do them all at the same time. You can do them one at a time. But that's my way of dealing with so much energy and so much drama and so much all at one time.
Right. I think, and you taught me that, and not even people just reaching out to you. It could just be a bunch of chatter going on that you don't have time for. Yeah.
Yeah. I used to make time. I used to make myself make time all the time because I was almost, especially when I was in radio and I was doing, like, I was so much more out in the public eye at the time. People would message me constantly about things. And I mean, it was nothing to get 15 messages a day from different people about different things. And I always felt like I needed to answer them. I needed to open them as soon as I got them. I couldn't let them sit there. And finally, I realized that this was just draining me of so much of my energy and time and mental capacity that I had to do something to try and manage it and make it easier for myself.
I also find it, because I'm so used to having those type of people around, that when I have people who are willing to share their energy with me, I'm not able to accept it. And I'll throw this out there again. We have met some wonderful people through the Sandy and Toddcast.
Right.
And there are some people who are just so kind and giving and supportive and nice, and it's wonderful. And I can't accept it. It's so hard to accept some of that, the hearts and the kisses and you guys are wonderful and all that. Okay, thank you. Got to go. That's how I feel about it. And so we also, as empaths who deal with that, we have to kind of get to the point where we can accept that a little bit more.
Yes.
It's
hard because
we can't just keep rejuvenating our own energy. And that it's okay for us to get a little bit of that from other people. It's okay for that.
you know what makes it hard is on the journey of learning to manage it better, you sort of, I guess it's like a trade-off at sometimes. Like in order to preserve your own energy, you just shut yourself off from all energy.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like a process of steps, I think. It's sort of like learning how to manage it, then learning how to open yourself back up to be able to accept it a little bit more when it's given to you. That kindness, that good feeling, that good energy, and good emotion, and let it to find that balance of what you can deal with in your life. And I'm kind of learning how to do that now. I had to shut myself off quite a bit at one point in order to deal. And so now I kind of take it, I kind of take it in stride a little bit better, you know, when they get, and I don't want to say this, I just want to make this clear. Not everybody who comes to you as an empath with a question or a concern or a problem is an energy vampire. I think that's the key point of this episode today, is to say not everybody is like that. Some people just come to you because you are an empath and they may need your help, or they may need your advice or a question, or sometimes they just want somebody to say their problem out loud to. They don't even need an answer. They just want to be able to talk about it. That's different than somebody who keeps coming to the well over and over and
about
over
the same
again.
things. And not 6 months later or a year later, when, you know, I kind of look at sometimes people when they deal with stuff as almost like having to change their lifestyle. And so people don't change overnight. We know that.
Right.
You can't change your habits and stuff overnight. So if you have somebody that you've helped out in a particular area in their life and things are going great and they seem to be doing well and everything's great, and they come back to you a year later or a year and a half later or 2 years later and go, oh, I'm in a shit show right now, and here's why. And maybe they've reverted back to some bad habits. Mm-hmm. That happens to everybody. Right. That's not who we're talking about here.
Right.
We're talking about people who day in, day out, week in, week out have the same shit that they keep bringing to the table. And it's like,
and they're good people. They're good people. They're not bad people, but this is their propensity. This is the way their lifestyle is. You said lifestyle, and it's true. It's just their lifestyle. It's what they've created for themselves. And that's not our fault. So we shouldn't have to be drained and exhausted all the time from trying to help the people who have made that their lifestyle. And it's not something that we can necessarily change. And one really cool point about this that I learned is that you can't fix them.
Right.
They're not going to, they can fix themselves, but I can't fix somebody. But what I can do is fix my expectations of them and how I deal with them. So, for example, maybe I don't offer them advice anymore. You know, I purposely don't say anything when they tell me something. If they try to vent to me, I certainly don't vent to them, because in my mind, that just opens up the rabbit hole and down we go. And so I kind of change the things that I do in relation to them. You don't have to completely cut someone like that out of your life, but it is your responsibility on some level to try and change the way you react to them and the things you do with them. Right.
And I think too, a lot of times when some of these folks come to me, the first thing I'll ask them, and I'm not being sarcastic, but the first question I'll ask is, have you ever sought therapy? Have you ever seen a counselor? Have you ever seen a therapist? Not because, I don't want to help them then and there, but sometimes that stuff runs really, really deep. And I'm not getting paid $150 an hour to hear about it every day of your life. So, and here's the other thing. I know plenty of people who've gone to therapy and they just want the therapist to fix them. They don't want to do the work.
Right.
And whether it's a therapist making $150 or $200 an hour, or it's an empath doing it for free, we can give you guidance, but you have to do the work. And I'm realizing in my own life, if I want certain things to come to me and make sense to me, I have to do the work to have that happen.
Yeah,
so,
agreed. Yep.
Either that or I'm going to choose the dark way and it'll all come to me and I'll shoot fire from my hands and you're all in big trouble.
And you'll become Dark Santa.
That's right.
Dark evil Santa.
Let me give you something to laugh about, Timmy.
Have you ever had this? Somebody who's always sad? Like always sad who comes to you. I've actually had to cut out a couple of people from my life who were just perpetually unhappy people, just so unhappy. And no matter what you say to them, no matter what they do, they just have this sadness about them. And as much as I would care about their feelings, it was so draining on me to deal with their sadness all the time that I couldn't take it anymore. I was becoming so sad and it just wasn't right. So I've had to actually cut a couple of people out of my life for that reason as well.
Well, and I think there's 2 points there too. And I think one of them is, depression is a real thing. And if you're somebody who's depressed and sad a lot, nothing that an empath can say to you can help you.
No.
You need to look at other avenues. There are medications and all that kind of stuff. The doctor should be called in and then there really should be a process for that. And I think as an empath, that's something that you need to mention.
Yes.
It may be time to see a professional and look at medications and stuff like that. And then the other thing is, if you're picking up on sadness, and I'm not talking about depression here, depressed people, but if you are in a situation where, and this has happened to me, and I know it's happened to you, where you just all of a sudden you're sad and you don't know why, it's likely you're picking up on somebody else's energy.
Yeah.
And ironically, our good friend Holly Hughes, who we've had on a couple of times on the Sandy and Toddcast, actually posted on Instagram a perfect note about knowing when it's your feelings that you're feeling or somebody else's. So I thought we'd share that today.
Here's a tip for anyone who's an empath in dealing with anxiety. A lot of my empath clients come to me because they're feeling overwhelmed, panicked, they can't sleep, their mind is racing, they feel as if their heart is racing, and they can't figure out what's going on and what has them so upset. They're usually worried that some bad thing is going to happen to them or is coming their way. But what actually is happening when you're an empath, you feel the things that are going on for other people. You are psychically connected to their emotions. So the first thing an empath should do is ask yourself, is this my feeling or someone else's? One way to help you sort that is you say that feeling that is making you race, give it a color or a shape or a sound, maybe all three. And then you kind of pull it away from you while you're doing that because you're identifying it as an object outside of your body. So you should be easing the anxiety that's inside of you. And then I want you to look at it and be like, is this mine or someone else's? And if it's someone else's, you send it back to them with love and light, right? Because you don't want to wish anyone else harm. And I bet you dollars to donuts and a little kitten that you will feel better.
There you go. And now that's advice she actually gave me on our podcast because I had dealt with a situation where I was taking on energy that was not my own, but I didn't know. I couldn't pinpoint it. And I came right out and asked her, how can I determine what's mine and what's not mine? And she gave that advice. And I will tell you since then, I've kind of realized that. And so when those things have happened, when I've felt that energy or that depression or that sadness or that anger, I've been able to go, okay, is this mine? Is what I'm feeling right now what I should be feeling, or am I picking up something else? And the last few times this has happened to me, within half a day or a day, I've realized it's come to my realization what I was feeling, who I was feeling it from, what it was about, all that kind of stuff, realizing it wasn't mine. And I don't have to deal with that quite as much anymore. It still takes me by surprise sometimes. Like all of a sudden you just go boom and you're crying and you don't know why, so that still does happen.
It's sort of, I'm much better at it than I was, but it's sort of this continuing sort of journey to try and do that. And one of my favorite people in the paranormal world, Michelle Belanger, I watched a couple of her classes virtually, and she was talking about empaths and talking about how to kind of compartmentalize the feelings. And once you start to realize that a feeling or feelings aren't your own, how to take that and move that aside and put it separate from who you are and your feelings. Because there are days we talk about this all the time. And I'll say, "Are you okay today?" Or you'll say, "Are you okay?" And it's just our way of reaching out to make sure that we're not picking up on the other one if we're feeling something, sort of a process of elimination.
Right.
And because there are days when I feel off or I feel sad or I feel just odd, and there's absolutely no reason for me to feel that way. So that's when I start to get the clue that maybe it's not me. Maybe I'm picking up on somebody else or something else that's going on in the world. I pick up on world energy.
Yep.
I pick up on things going on. If there's an earthquake, I'll feel it before I even know it happened.
Yeah, if we don't know if there's going to be an earthquake, we just watch Sandy. And then if she starts shaking a lot, and go, that kind of thing, it's going to happen.
But it's true. I don't know it's going to be an earthquake, but I'll feel something on in the world, and and then I get on the news and I see that something happened, and I'm like, well, that would make some sense. So we'll have to talk about that on a future episode, sort of the different types of energy and the different types of situations that you can be in, whether it's crowds or picking up on a person or a room or the world. There's all kinds of layers of energy out there that we can pick up on.
Absolutely. I think we've done the noble thing here. We've talked about energy vampires and assholes. I'm sure we're going to have more episodes regarding them in the future. Maybe some. It's so funny. While we're doing this podcast, I got messaged from one of the energy vampires.
Get out.
No, I'm serious. And I looked at it and I just put it away.
That's good. I'm so proud of you. I'm getting there too. I've got it. I've got that part of it under control, I think. So I'm very proud of you.
So if you're an empath or know someone who is, reach out to them, let them know about this podcast, and feel free to share your stories with us too. We'd love to know how you feel about it. You can contact the Sandy and Toddcast at gmail.com. That's our email. We'll talk about stuff from there on our Empathicary podcast too. So just reach out, share the story. You can reach out to us on Facebook, all that kind of stuff. We're out there, and we'd love to hear your stories of being an empath, discovering that you were an empath, and how you manage it. Because I think it's got to be managed. It's like any other thing that you experience in your life. There's certain things you have to do in order to stay healthy and strong during these things, through it.
Yeah. So. And any topics that you'd like to hear us talk about, sometimes it helps just knowing that you're not alone in the world, that people are going through the same thing that you're going through, that you deal with on a daily basis. So if there's any specific topics that you have that you'd like Todd and I to discuss, please let us know. We have our Facebook page, the Empathicary Podcast. We also have our Facebook page, the Sandy and Toddcast. You can reach us at both of those. And our email, as Todd said, and just let us know if there's something you want us to talk about. We're here for you, for ourselves, to sort of move along on this little journey called life. Yep.
And you can also friends of the Sandy and Toddcast, Stay Weirdos. Is that what it is?
Yeah. No, it's Stay Weirdos, Friends of the Sandy and Toddcast group on Facebook.
I can never get that right. I don't know why.
I love it. It's so funny. I kind of secretly hope you mess it up each time because it makes me laugh.
Bitch.
So you'll love that group because it really is a safe space for everybody to share, laughs, and it's non-judgmental, and we can share our thoughts and feelings and emotions and ideas all in one place. So.
Excellent. Well, I guess until the next Empathicary podcast, I'll say goodbye. Ho, ho, ho. Goodbye, Sandy. Welcome to Santa's lap.
Oh, boy, I can't top that one. Bye, guys.
But you can't either. Bye.